Well, it's another miserable sunny summer day here, 13 degrees centigrade, and I've got myself another project. So last night I got in and I thought, well, I'll have a quick flick through Facebook, and I went onto Marketplace, and this was for collection for free. A Honda 535 plastic deck. I see there's a crack in the deck there. It's described as won't start or can't start it. I think it's a self-drive one, but just like the video the other day, it's not going to be soup this time. I'm going to get myself some eggs on toast and coffee, and on the presumption that it's not going to rain, I'll get it out the back of the car, onto the deck in the garden, and have a quick look at it. But apart from looking a bit kind of weather beaten, it doesn't actually look, too bad. I think it's been sitting outside for years, so as long as the Honda engine is you know, in one piece or in standard operating condition, I don't think it should be too bad. Just give it a quick clean up. The reason I thought about this was because of the leak in petrol from the carb on the mount field mower. This might be a suitable time to think about a replacement. And I've fancied a Honda mower for quite a while, so getting a Honda mower for free seemed like a good job. So I've been to Innerleithen, which is about 25 minutes away from here, and back this morning. So anyway, time for coffee and eggs, and we'll see how we go. Well, there's the eggs cooking. That nice bit of steam came off that there. So that's that. Toast's on, and then the coffee's next, and then lawnmower. Right, well, I'm full of eggs and toast and coffee now. So this is fresh from Facebook Marketplace Honda HRB 535. I think, as I say, I think it's been left outside mostly, so there's a little bit of kind of sort of rustiness. I did have to undo these clamps and fold the handle over, so there's a bit of WD-40 required, I think, on a few odds and ends. But I'll say one thing, compared to the mount field, this thing is pretty much like a tank. It's significantly heavier. Let's have a look underneath. It's actually cleaner. A little snail in there. I don't think it really wants to stay in there. I'll pop it in the field. Yeah, blade blade doesn't look exactly sharp, but that's a minor detail. So at some point, no doubt, this will have to come off. A couple of, I don't know if there are 12 or 14 mil bolts to take the blade off. So it's obviously driven, but let's see if we can get this over. Yeah, it's a solid lump. So I see there's obviously an oil filler or something. I don't know if that's a dipstick. Let's see if there's any fuel. Yeah, there's actually a full tank of fuel in it. Smells alright. Doesn't smell old. Let's have a look at this. There's definitely oil in there. I fancied a Honda mower for a while, but I wasn't going to buy one. I was hoping I'd get one cheap, but free's better than cheap. Let's have a quick look at the air filter. It does feel quite nicely put together, you know, that the movement on that feels quite good. So it's not a washable one, it's just a replaceable one, but I'm pretty sure you'll get stuff like this cheaply on AliExpress, I would guess, if I needed to do so. A little filter bit there that could probably do with being cleaned out. Obviously doing this one-handed and trying to look at the camera screen is not the best idea. Right, so sun's slightly coming out here. It's been pouring with rain today. So I know nothing at all about the Honda. Spark plug there. I'll just put the cap on for now. Now, presumably one of these will be the choke and one will be, so presumably that is for the forward motion or something. Now that's not connected to anything. Ah, right. So let's see. I think that's probably part of the problem. This will be required to pull start it, I guess, unless that is the motion, is it? What does that say? Yeah, so maybe that's the actual drive, and maybe that's to start. I notice the starter's on the opposite side as well. I think what I'll do is I shall look up some instructions for a Honda 535 and see what it says. I don't see any priming, so where do these cables go? So this cable looks like it goes into that, yeah, so that's that one. So seems to be like 3 positions there. So furthest forward pulls it back, middle puts it there, and it doesn't seem to make that much difference. So could that be the choke? I'm not sure. And then the orange lever, yeah, not entirely sure, but I'll try that as a choke, and I'll check some instructions, but I will give it a pull first to see what happens. The rain started, but I decided to quickly investigate the pull start, so I've taken that off. I sprayed a little bit of WD-40 on it. It seems to be moving far better now, but the rain is on, so I'll see if it gets any worse. But I'm going to go and check and see if there's any instructions for an HRB 535 with regards to the starting procedure. But anyway, that's moving freely now, and I'll just check it with a couple of pulls to see if it is turning the engine over. I've taken the cover off the spark plug, so the spark plug cap's been taken off. I'm going to remove the spark plug and see if I can see any spark when I do pull it. Rain's held off very slightly, so there's a spark plug. It does smell of fuel, so I think fuel's getting to it. I'll maybe squirt a tiny amount of fuel into the. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. I'm going to check this compression. I'll put my finger on that and I'll pull the pull starter and see if there is compression. Well, the sun's made its way out again, so I stuck my finger in just gently against the spark plug hole, pulled the starter, and yeah, it's definitely got compression. This is the spark plug. I've given it a quick clean up with some emery paper. I'll stuff that in the end and I'll ground it. I'll pull it and I'll see if I can see a spark. Well, it could well be, I don't know if it'll be this one or if it's that one, but I think that's to do with the choke. It could be that the switch that grounds or ungrounds the coil is stopping the plug from sparking. So I think my next step is to take this off again, take the full shroud off, take the air box off and get access to the side so I can unplug the ground, which kills the coil, so that stops it sparking, and see if that allows the spark plug to spark. There is one thing though, I looked at the instructions and there's a yellow button here supposedly, so I don't know if there's a problem with the handle because this yellow button is missing, and maybe that's the stop start function. But that cable goes in there, so I'll need to take the shroud off and have a look. It may well be that this has had too much use and it's knackered, but there's obviously as well, there's something missing between the end of that cable and this lever, so I would need to make something up to activate whatever that does. So, sun's back out, and I take the shroud off, take the airbox off, see where all these cables go and what they actually do. So hopefully it's not been a wasted journey. Notice as well, there's another crack there. So I don't know what they've been doing with this thing, but it's had some sort of reasonable amount of abuse by the looks of things. But it's not going to rust, so that's a positive. So I've got to take the Phillips screw off to get this pull cord cover off, and then I'll need to see what's behind here. But there are 3 10mm nuts that hold the pull start device on, or mechanism on. So anyway, I'll start disassembling and see what it reveals. Okay, so that's the cover for the pull starter. You just take the cable through there. There's quite a handy gap. I actually thought it was cracked at first, but it's designed like that. So that's easily removed. It's just one Phillips screw that I've just put back into the plastic shroud. It looks like at some point somebody's painted it black. So the next thing is these 3 bolts to remove the starter mechanism. I think I said 10mm nut bolts, but it's actually nuts. So that's the 3 10mm nuts off. I have actually removed this already, and I've put some WD-40 in to make sure these dogs come out, and it is definitely better. That's going to go in there. Now, yeah, okay. Take the petrol or the gas cap off, depending on what part of the world you're from. Oh, right, so it actually has the fuel tank built into the shroud. So, put the top back on. I'm obviously going to have to disconnect the fuel line there. So that fuel line goes on to here by the looks of things. I think it might be better to try and actually empty the fuel out. And now, what does this do? That is the fuel, okay. Let's have a look what's behind here. Certainly plenty of cobwebs and stuff in here, so right, so that's that to one side. It's the air filter out. Alright, so what have we got? We've got two, it could be 10mm, two 10mm. I've got a hose there. So two. Don't see anything there, so I'll undo the two 10s, or if they are 10s, if not there might be an 8, but I think they're a 10. Yeah, they're 10s. I'll undo them. I'll take this to the side. That'll give me access to see if there is a switch for the coil. So they're definitely 10s, but there's also a 10mm bolt on this side. So I'll take that off, and then I think once that's up, yeah, that feels like that's all there is to it. And that's a case of disconnecting that hose. Right, cool. Weather's holding out as well. Well, there's plenty of crap and baby snails hiding behind there. There's certainly lots of crap collected around about that carb. Now, that's the switch I was looking for, I believe. Yeah, that goes to the coil up there. So, that feels quite stiff actually. That's okay. So let's see if I move. Alright. It may be, see when I'm doing that, it's not making much of a difference. I would think that would be off and that would be on. So I'm going to disconnect this and have a look. But anyway, I'm going to get this shroud off so I've got better access. And we'll need to have a campaign to save the snails, I guess. Well, it's not really best practice to do this because I'm putting a bit of a strain on that, but now that I've got this dangling, I will attempt to take this hose off so I don't put any more unnecessary strain on there. There's quite a bit of corrosion, shall we say, on that top end, so if that's meant to be generating power, I'm not too convinced that you get a great deal out of that. So I think I need to take the coil off. I mean, taking that off, will actually free it, and that should, in theory, produce a spark. But looking at the state of this head, I suspect it needs a bit of cleaning up, because I think that's a little bit on the corroded side. I might be wrong, but so let's see. Definitely got that one to take off, and then presumably this one, so a 10mm and a 10mm, will presumably remove the coil. Then I'll need to get that brushed down and make sure this surface is clean as well. So yeah, I don't think the corrosion is helping it. Might not be stopping it, but I don't think it's helping it. So I'm going to disconnect this fuel line, put the tank to the side, and then see what I can do about cleaning this up. Alright, we've got a bit more access. So let me think. I think what I'll do is I'll test the spark plug. I'll take it out and I'll test it to see if it's sparking. It's going to be difficult to see it, and I'll temporarily put on the pull handle. So if and when I need to kill it, I'll just put that on. Well, it's going to be out, so it's not going to matter, but that's going to be the thing to test. But I don't think I'm going to be getting much of a spark off that thing anyway, to be quite honest. So let's check. Well, somewhat unbelievably, that is actually sparking. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. Well, I've just unbolted the coil. There's two 10mm. There's one, you need a deep dish. The one that goes here, you need a deep dish socket to get that off. And then there's this one, just a regular socket, 10mm. So I have actually given this a little bit of a clean up with some emery paper. I'll give it another quick go. I just used the pull cord and I kept pulling the starter and just took the surface rust off. So I'm going to give this a quick clean up, make that as good as I can. I'll put a bit of WD-40 on it as well, and then we'll see. I could maybe check the resistance of this, but I'm not sure I'm really that motivated to do that today. But we'll see how that goes, see if it's still sparking thereafter. So I've cleaned up this surface slightly. I've also cleaned up the surfaces of the coil. I've used a piece of paper, well, it was actually a post-it, to set the gap. I'll need to double check if that's too far or too close, but I'm not seeing any sign of a spark now, even with that taken off. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of revision, I think, but it could be an opportune moment to have a wee cup of tea, of course. I did start to disconnect the carb, so there's this lever there, and then there's this tiny little spring. So the lever bit goes on the top there, the tiny little spring goes in there, and then I'm guessing that just slides off now, but I'll double check that the carb does just slide off before I end up breaking something. So, time for a wee cup of tea, I think. Well, I've had my cup of tea, and I'm just going to test the coil, make sure it's working. So I've got the multimeter, I've got it set on to ohms, or resistance I guess, I'm not an expert with multimeters, don't quote me on anything I'm saying here, other than put it on a 20k, put your positive into the spark plug cap, and then attach it to either end and see what the reading is. And it should be, I think, about 6 point something, so I'm going to push that in. So 6.45 to that side and to the cap. Let's put this on. The only reason I'm using this type of connector today is because I wouldn't be able to film it. So 6.44, and then we check the kill switch part, or dead man's whatever switch. So we'll put that on there, push that in. So 6.44, 6.44, and I'll double check that. I think that was 6.44 as well. So, as far as I understand, that means it's a good coil. So there's nothing wrong with a coil. I think the next thing is to get, I think that gap might be too close. I'm guessing. I'm not, obviously, as I've said, I'm not an expert on lawnmowers. I'm just a tinkerer. So I'm going to find an old business card of mine, and I'm going to put it in and set the gap. Right, so I've got my old business card from when I used to work in Dubai, and I'm basically going to push that tight and use the thickness of the business card to set the gap. So I'll need 2 hands to do that. Well, I'll need 3 hands, but I've got 2 hands in use. So I'm going to push that hard against it. Then there's the thickness of the business card that will be between the coil and the, I don't know if it's a magneto or whatever you call it, but whatever the whirly bit's called, that's the distance it's going to be. This card has been retrieved. You can maybe see the gap there, I'm not entirely sure. There's a very slight gap. So, the dead man's switch, or whatever you want to call it, the kill switch, the ground switch, is off. I shall put the spark plug back on to the cap, and we'll see what happens. Well, I'm going to come back to the coil. So the carb's pretty well gunked up on the outside, so I'm going to get some brake cleaner on it, and then I'm going to take the float bowl off and have a check inside. So I'm going to blast it down first with some brake cleaner, and then I'll take the bowl off once I've cleaned down the outside. Well, there was a lot of milky looking gunk came out the bottom of that carb. Pretty sure there's been water in there. The bowl certainly looks like it's had water in there with the rust. So I'll give that a quick clean out, dry it up. I'll blast everything through. The carb's cleaned up, not too bad on the outside. There's still a couple of bits of junk. I basically just put my fingers over the inlet and the outlet and blasted all the crap off, well, as much as possible. So yeah, that looks like it's had water sitting in there. So quick blast out with this, quick dry off. I'll blow through all the different bits with the cleaner and see how it goes. But this problem I've got at the moment, obviously, no sparky, so I'll need to look into that. Alright, so I've blown through the carb, I've cleaned that. I do notice because of this crack here, it's very tight to get that off. This part presumably needs knocked. This bit needs knocked down rather than that part raised up. Very tight there. But saying that, it came off. The most difficult part was getting this bit detached. So these two, they're fine. That's easy enough. There's a little spring clip there, and then the lever goes in at the top, so you just put it at that angle, slip it in. So that was straightforward enough. So the question remains, why have I no Sparky? Is it because I've taken the rust off? That's killed it, but the coil's working. So presumably it only sparks every time this bit comes round. But well, I don't know. I might need to leave that question open for the viewers. What do I need to do? So I'll connect the fuel line back up. I'll maybe drain the petrol from the tank just to see if it is contaminated. But question is, why is it no sparky warky? And it was, but of course every time I try and test the spark, the sun usually comes out. So I'll try it just now. I'll put it back on. It's a little bit more dull. Find a decent place to ground this. Maybe there. I have actually cleaned some of the aluminium there to try and get a better ground, but we'll see if it does spark. I've put the ground wire back on, so take that off. So, any suggestions? Well, I do actually have spark. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. It's probably pretty crappy, but yeah, it is sparking, so that's a positive. Must have been the Dubai business card that did that. So, I've got sparky warky. I've put the carb back on. I need to drain the fuel. Yeah, so drain the fuel, see if it looks okay. Try some fresh fuel and see if there's any burping, farting or otherwise. Well, it looks a bit cloudy to me. No, oh yeah, you can. I don't know if you can see that. There's definitely a water section at the bottom there. So there's been water in the fuel, which has been confirmed by the rust or the corrosion at the bottom of the float bolt. So hopefully that's now cleaned out. I'll get some fresh fuel. So yeah, that's got water on the bottom. As I say, I don't know if you can see that little line, the different colour. I can't see because of the sun, but there's definitely contamination in that fuel. So I'll put that out the way there. I'll try and let that tank dribble out as much as possible. Not very environmentally friendly this, but it'll just have to do for now. And I'll get some fresh fuel. So, put this back together, put the airbox back together. I'm not going to bother doing anything with cleaning the filters or that at this point. until I know for sure that it's all up and running. And then I'll see what other horrors need to be taken care of. No doubt I'll need to adjust these things. I have actually changed the length here, so when you pull that, that should open the switch. I'm not sure how much that's opening and closing, because this bit we're looking at here, there's very little movement there. So I might undo this and just see how much this can actually move, because to me it's like that should be, say, open and then that's closed, open, closed, open, closed. But the actual movement on the cable, it looks more like it's open and open, so it might need adjusted. Right, it should be a 16mm deep dish socket or spark plug socket for this. I'm using a 17, fits in fine. So I'm going to put that in, I'll nip it up. Just nip that up slightly. Get in. I have actually cleaned the spark plug connector. So I've got this off at the moment, so if it does start, I'll just ground it out with this, and then presumably, as long as this is turned to the off position here, either it'll stop the mower or I can just move the switch like that and it should stop. But yeah, I'll try it first without it. Once I put it all back on. I don't know if I'll have access to it actually, to be honest, once I put the fuel tank back on. But anyway, we'll find out. And if we can't stop the engine, well, we'll just have to deal with that when the time comes. But I think I'll just need to touch that, ground that, and it'll stop, and hopefully I don't electrocute myself and pass out. Well, that's it all back together in a sense that it should start, or it's got the possibility of starting. So I'll put the choke on. It's obviously not going to do anything with a dead man's handle or whatever you call it, the kill switch. But that's the choke on, in theory. I've put some fresh fuel in from that container. It's on runaway mode, so I've not put too much into it, but worst comes to the worst, I'll just see about yanking off the spark plug cap. So, how many pulls do we think it's going to take? I'm not going to video this, but will we go for 3? We'll try for 3. We'll hope for 3. Well, after 10 pulls, we did get a very slight sign of life. We'll try again. Well, scores on the doors. I've been squirting a bit of the brake cleaner, which is flammable, into the airbox. After about 3 or 4 pulls, it will fire up very briefly and then stop. So I think my next problem is to double check the carb, take the carb to bits fully, make sure the fuel's getting through. But should I save that for tomorrow or not? Oh, here comes an incoming call. Well, I've taken the carb off. I've cleaned out the emulsion tube, that's fine. This main jet is actually blocked, so let's see if I can do this in a ham-fisted way. So there's no light coming through that, so I need to get something to see if I can clear the main jet. So I need to find something rather small. You can see now it is clear. So I just used a tiny little bit of wire off a wire brush and then blasted it through with the carb cleaner. Success. Okay, that's that reassembled. I took it out, blasted the cleaner through there. I also took the float needle out, cleaned in here, replaced the float. Now to put the bowl back on, which is there. Gaskets in place, and we'll see if it decides to fire up on fuel once I put it back together anyway. Well, that's it back together in as much as it needs to be. I've actually put the ground on, and I've put the lever on the choke position. I have actually made a bit of a cock up because there's a little wire that goes inside here, and I've dropped it, so I'm going to have to make another one unless it turns up. That's a bit of a bugger, but anyway, that's where we are. Well, it's running. Well, see if it actually works. Well, it's definitely working, but there's something strange going on with the drive. I don't know what that is, but it's cutting. It's kind of like it's half driving and half not. Anyway, I'll see if I can start it again. Well, it starts fine, no problems there. I've obviously got to figure out all of these controls, and then whatever this thing does. So that changes the engine noise. So I don't know what that is. So that's not doing anything. Let's see, pull that back. And no, that doesn't seem to be cutting either. Let go of that. Nothing happening there. Whoop. Well, obviously you're not supposed to do that. Sending out smoke signals. That's a bit of drama there. So yeah, don't lean it over on the side while it's running. Won't do it any good. Looks like it's clearing now. So I shall stop it and I'll check what the function of all these cables are. And get back. So this will be part one, I think. If you've got any suggestions other than throw it in the bin, quite happy to hear. But yeah, I'll need to figure it out. But anyway, that's part one. Part two will be what's actually happening now that it's running. Well, I'm sorry, I can't keep fiddling. I can't stop fiddling. So I've adjusted the cable here. I've got the ground, the dead ground or whatever you call it, connected. So that's on. I'm not sure what the midpoint is, but this should be off. Oh, it hasn't done it that time. So that's the slack. Push that, stops. Right, so that should be putting it on. I think that cable needs a bit of adjustment, because that, when that goes back all the way, obviously that cuts it off. So I'll do a test. That's fully on there. That's fully on. So we've got it to start, and then so I think this cable needs to come off. There's been some repairs on there, so I think this needs to come off and make sure this linkage is going back and forward as it should. So we'll do a quick test again. We'll take the ground off or on, whichever way it works. So that's definitely working. It sounds very nice, actually. Sounds very refined. Seems to be, you pull this handle, makes a noise, then you hear like the sort of jet engine sound, like a hovercraft, and that's the blades going round. So this presumably is something to do with the drive. I'll need to get some wire, try and bridge something there, so that I can see if it actually drives the machine. But anyway, that's enough for one day. Switch it off. Don't fully understand what that does yet. That's it closed. And then I've cocked up. I lost a piece of metal, a little clip that does the choke. So it's meant to work in conjunction with the ground switch and the choke. When you move it forward, it closes the little butterfly on the carb, but I can't for the life of me see where the hell it's gone. But anyway, it's up and running. Wasn't running, is running. Still to figure out exactly how it's meant to work, but I've downloaded the manual. I'll have a look at the manual, see what it says, and I'll get underneath and have a look and take it from there. Okay, any tips, suggestions, otherwise, let me know. Feel free to like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. And well, I hope you're all having a good day. It's actually quite pleasant. It would be nice to get the grass cut, but maybe not with this machine tonight.